Greetings campers, I'm Jake Farmer. This is Farmeritaville. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm at my favorite place, or what I have often called my favorite place in the whole wide world, Universal Orlando Resort. And when I say that, I really do mean it. I've only been coming here for about 12 years. This was the first time I've been here. So 2009 is when it was, and that's kind of late. I think kind of late in life. I'm not a local in Florida. I didn't grow up in Florida, but Universal has always been super appealing to me, as any kid who's grown up in the 90s and watched Nickelodeon can tell you. The end of every show ended with so-and-so, Guts, Legends of the Hidden Temple, Double Dare, whatever it was. It is filmed on location at Nickelodeon Studios here at Universal Orlando Resort. So at an early age, that is what began my fascination with this place. And when I did get to come here one time as a kid, I came with my mom and grandparents, single mom on a single mom salary, busting her ass, doing what she could. And we came here and we did a trip to Disney only. And we even had to spend a day sitting through timeshare pitches to get our tickets. So no discredit to her, but I distinctly remember when we got to our hotel, I rated the brochures that are in the lobby like they are in every hotel here in Orlando, and I found the one for Universal, and I was like, Mom, please, 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 can we go there? And unfortunately we didn't make it there that trip. But in 2009 I did make it here for the first time with two of my best friends. We took a night off work, so we flew down here for one night only. We were all broke as could be, and we just did Horror Nights. We got off the plane, came straight here from the airport and did Horror Nights, and then went back to the airport at like 2 in the morning for like a 5 a.m. flight home. Didn't even stay in a hotel or anything. That was my introduction to Universal, and I was just overwhelmed and blown away, and mainly by the Halloween event, but also because there are IPs here that I didn't know at the time. Like Jurassic Park I knew about, and if you're my age, that was a big deal when you were a kid. So that was a big movie that I grew up on, and I was really excited to see that in person. One that took me by surprise that I remember being excited about was Men in Black. I didn't even know there was a Men in Black ride, and just walking through the queue and seeing all the scenes just made me excited. So that's just the tip of the iceberg, but now I'm going to show you around Universal and some of the things that make it special to me, but also some of the things you may not have noticed. So thanks for joining me, and let's hop to it. Now here's the first thing that I like about Universal, and that is City Walk. City Walk is this great collection of shops and smaller attractions. There's a movie theater right here to my left, and down there is Hollywood Drive-In Mini Golf. And honestly, if you like mini golf, you've got to play those courses. I love mini golf. They're two of the best I've ever played. You've got a lot of great places to eat, like Bubba Gump and Cowfish, and I mean, there's just Margaritaville. There's so many more to name as we get down there. But here's the main thing I want to point out about City Walk. This entranceway that you're looking at is the main entrance to Universal. So City Walk just is funnel shaped. You come in the tip, and then you start walking inward, and to the left you've got Islands of Adventure, and to the right you have the original Universal Orlando Resort. And getting in and out of here is super easy, whether you're driving, whether you're taking a taxi or an Uber or something like that, or if you're staying on property. No matter how you get here, whether you're staying or not, everybody comes in through this one way. So it makes it super easy to get here. You can just hop in a cab and say, take me to Universal, and there's one spot that feeds into everything. So it's very easy to navigate in that respect. Also, because the two parks butt up next to each other, this entire complex is kind of like one place, City Walk and the two theme parks. The only things removed are some of the hotels, as well as Volcano Bay. This is Antojito's authentic Mexican food. Now, as a native Texan, I get leery about Mexican food when I'm outside of Texas and not in Mexico. This place is actually really, really good, and always has a long line at the end of the night right after the parks close. But one of my favorite places to eat at City Walk. They have a Margaritaville here at City Walk, and not just any Margaritaville. This is Margaritaville to me, because you're in sunny tropical Florida, and when you walk out of the Margaritaville, the fun just continues at the Universal parks. So what better place could it be? I've been to other Margaritaville locations that are not so well located, and when you walk out of there, the fun is over because you are not in an exciting tropical sunny place. You're in a very sad, desolate place. So to me, this is the Margaritaville and the only Margaritaville. I'm aware there are Margaritavilles and other sunny tropic locations, but I haven't been to any of them. And in fact, this was the very first one that I ever went to, period. So to me, this will always be the home Margaritaville. Case in point, you walk out of Margaritaville and right there is the entrance to Islands of Adventure. But also right here is part of Margaritaville is the Lone Palm Bar, and it's kind of been a tradition of mine to always get a margarita over at this bar at some point. And this airplane right here, and if you are any kind of Jimmy Buffett fan or Jimmy Buffett lore, he has a song called Jamaica Mistaka, and I'll let you Google it, but that song is about a story that happened to him while flying this very airplane and getting shot at in Jamaica. You can Google it, I won't bore you with the details. There goes one of the water taxis. If you're staying at one of the upper tier resorts that's serviceable by a water taxi, you get this sweet, beautiful boat ride over here to City Walk in the parks. And that's just really nice late at night or early in the morning, or right now in the middle of the afternoon. Here's the entrance to the second park, Universal's Islands of Adventure, which opened in 1999. And right across the way over there at the famous Globe is the original entrance to the original park, rather. So you can see, like I said, these parks are right up against each other. They're not spread out like the Disney parks are. So Universal as a whole is kind of one place. And of course, it goes without saying that these two parks connect in backstage areas all along the way. And you may have seen that firsthand if you've ever come here for Halloween Horror Nights or any kind of after hours event. Sometimes they open those gates and they use it to extend queue or funnel people out. Now, Islands of Adventure is not as original as Universal, and I actually like the original Universal better because of some of the IPs and shows and other things that go on over there. But I do have a deep love for this park too. Everybody wave to the water taxi. It honked at us. I have a deep love for this park as well because right now it has some of the best rides in Orlando. My favorite rides in Orlando, Velocicoaster and Hagrid's, I think are two of the best rides. My other really big favorite ride overall, Universal or Disney, is the Mummy, which is in the old park over there. But another IP tie-in to Universal is that the Incredible Hulk coaster, which was here as part of opening day, that roller coaster was used in the 1999 version of the movie House on Haunted Hill, which is also one of my very favorite horror movies. It stars Jeffrey Rush, Chris Kattan, oh man, Taye Diggs is in it. There's a bunch of people in it. But for me, that was a really fun horror movie that I like a lot. To this day, I still like it a lot. But the opening sequence, the opening scene starts here and uses the Incredible Hulk as the fictional Terror Incognita coaster, showing things that don't actually happen and couldn't actually happen on a roller coaster, but it's still fun to watch all the same. And that is just another little thing that I like about this park over here. Of course, it's not a trip to Universal if you don't stop and get a picture with the iconic Universal Globe. You have to get a picture with the Globe. Another film fact as far as stuff that was filmed here, Sharknado 3, the only Sharknado movie I've ever watched, because I tried to start the first one and it was so stupid I couldn't get 20 minutes into it. But the third one I watched all the way through just because I know that it was shot here at Universal. And I don't mean using Universal as like a film studio, but using Universal as a theme park in the background where part of the story takes place. It's still completely stupid, but the Globe makes a pretty interesting appearance in the finale if you're so inclined to put yourself through 90 minutes of stupid jokes. I had to get a shot with the entrance of the park. It's iconic. I love those archways back there. If you've watched any of my other videos that I shot here at Universal, you've seen me stand several times in this exact spot and talk to the camera with the arch behind me. And there's a reason for that. It's because there is a, well, one, it's a beautiful backdrop, but two, there is a row of planters right here that are the perfect height for me to set the camera on and talk to while you see the arch behind me. Now, admittedly, I'm not at the archway I normally use. There's probably 8 of these, and I usually go about 3 that way. But at the moment, there's a kid right in front of that arch having a Category 5 tantrum meltdown. And if you can hear that obscene screaming in the background, that is that kid having a really shitty day. So I don't know what happened, but I hope it gets better for him. Shrek 4D isn't necessarily something I'm all about in love with, but the Shrek movies, much like this Shrek 4D attraction, poke fun at Disney in a good-natured way, and the Shrek 4D show ends with him swatting Tinkerbell into a speaker in the theater, and it's a great gag and it's a lot of fun. Sadly, it's about to be removed. We don't know what's going to replace it, but just that good-natured tongue-in-cheek jabs at Disney, I enjoy very much. Hollywood, old school Hollywood. This is something I love, just the genre of that like 1940s Hollywood, old school, and they have it great over here, the storefronts and everything. One of my favorite movies ever is Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it definitely plays to that aesthetic, and this reminds me of that, along with all the other fun stuff. If you're here at Horror Nights, this is usually 100% of the time a scare zone. So they park stuff in the middle of the street and it becomes, you know, just a gauntlet of horror during Halloween Horror Nights. So it's a lot of fun. Speaking of old school Hollywood, one of the shops that they have that's unique to this place is the Williams of Hollywood prop shop. And they frequently have park used props from shows and events and rides in here. I don't know if they've got much right now. We'll pop in. It's mostly Christmas stuff up front. Oh, there's some Horror Nights stuff back here. Some of the scarecrows. And some signage. They don't have a whole lot of selection in here right now, but that's what's cool about this place is it's like a real antique consignment shop. You never know what's going to come in here, so every time you visit the park, you can come see if they've got any new stuff. I was lucky enough to get a Halloween Horror Nights sign for really cheap a couple of years ago, and I backlit it and framed it and put it up in my shop, and it's one of my favorite things. And I have yet to find anything that cool or in that like good of a price range so far. The fact that they have these scarecrows in here from the last couple of years, the Scarecrow Stalker Hunt is pretty awesome. They're pricey. They're $1,000, $2,000, and $3,000 for them. But yeah, definitely Williams of Hollywood Prop Shop. You can come buy the stuff from the events you love here at Universal, and that's just so cool to me that you have the chance to like walk out with a piece of the event when you attend. The Bourne Stuntacular behind me is also over here in the Hollywood section, and I love stunt shows. I'm a sucker for stunt shows, and I feel like it's kind of the future of stunt shows, and I don't want to spoil it, and I know they're very protective of like camera usage in there, but it's like you're in a movie, and the action on stage is like part of a giant movie that you're in, and it's super high tech and it's super awesome, and I've never seen anything like it, and it's fairly new. It's just popped up last year. It opened, and it's amazing. So if you're here, go see it. When you're talking classic Universal Studios, it doesn't get any more classic than the horror makeup show. Now, it's evolved and changed over the years, and talking about makeups and kind of showing a little bit of behind-the-scenes footage is the structure of the show, but it's really a comedy show more than anything. And of course, right here in front, the ghost host with the most, Mr. Beetlejuice himself, used to have a Beetlejuice show here. Unfortunately, it's gone, but as you can see, they are keeping him around. And I can't pass this up without going to watch it again and again and again. Hello. Good. The minute you walk in the lobby of the makeup show, it's just old school horror. All these cool displays, especially if you're into horror or you're into special effects. And I was addicted to special effects at an early age. This is cool Munsters stuff. Alfred Hitchcock. Creature from the Black Lagoon. Wolfman, Lon Chaney Jr. This is just like a totally cool museum. You'd spend all day in here. And Jack, the face of Halloween Horror Nights. and the caretaker, one of the other icons. Undoubtedly, Jack is the most popular Horror Nights icon, though.
The Horror Makeup Show. And now, how about a nice round of applause for the host of today's show, Alex Ross.
Hello, everybody! Well, look at this big nighttime crowd. We can make more noise than that. I said, hello, everybody! How are you guys ready for some blood, guts, and gore? Yeah! Happy holidays. Welcome to the Horror Makeup Show. Those things go together. I'm Alex Ross, your host, and today's a little different. Very good friend of mine, Mark James, makeup artist and creature creator, is in town. I'm going to turn the show over to him. He's got so much to talk about, the latest trends in the horror industry, and he can get us all an insider's look. But to get him on stage, you got to make noise. Make it loud, make it proud. Give it up for Mark James!
1, 2, 3!
Everybody scream!
Oh, no, DJ!
Wow, that's really good. That's in his arm. Is this supposed to happen?
Oh, no.
What do we do?
Oh, no.
What do we do?
Oh, no.
Universal is here for you.
Hey, buddy! You okay? Now, I took the latex off of this one so you can see the understructure. This is fiberglass, based on the star of the movie, David Nunn. And with the latex on this one, you can see what it's like when it's activated, running on a pneumatic system.
And pneumatics is air pressure.
Just simple air pressure.
All right.
That's all that's making these pieces move, is just air pressure.
That will always be one of my favorite show sets. Like, I want my garage to look like that set. That's a weird thing to say, but there's just something cozy and homey about it that I love. We continue over here through Central Park, and to the left you've got Nightly Lagoon show with fountains and pyro and lasers and video. And it changes sometimes for the seasons. They had a Halloween version. Now they have the cinematic celebration, which is another video I did. But this walkway here under the trees, they always utilize the trees really well for decoration. Like right now, they've got these falling icicle things. But this is always another scare zone spot during Horror Nights. And some of my favorite scare zones, I think, have taken place over here. And still the old school Hollywood feel as it fades away into Woody Woodpecker and everything. The Spanish style architecture. Now we're walking towards the SpongeBob Woody Woodpecker kids area. It's the kiddie area of the park with kiddie rides and playground and stuff. And to be honest, I've never really spent any time over here except during Halloween Horror Nights when they utilize this entire area I'm standing in as queue for a couple of the haunted houses. I've never even been back here. I didn't know this existed. But this is where they're queuing us up for Beetlejuice, so here we are. But I gotta come over here because, like I mentioned earlier, E.T. was a big part, and E.T. is the last original ride here from the opening of the park. It's kind of sad that it's not popular and it's never got a very long wait time, but it's also a classic. Like the ride itself, you can tell, you know, is kind of aged, but it doesn't make it bad. E.T. was kind of a groundbreaking movie, and to my knowledge, they've never remade or rebooted E.T. That kind of stood alone, and that's kind of a one-hit thing, and that, you know, Spielberg is like that a lot of the time, I think. Jaws, I know, had sequels, but none of them that, you know, are as profound as the first one. Same thing with Jurassic Park. And so the fact that E.T. is still here and you can still experience it is just like a great nostalgia feeling if you grew up in the 80s or the 90s. Riding the ride, not just because the story and the clothing and everything about that is from the movie, which was back in the 80s, but again, the fact that it is an older ride, the technology and stuff, you know, from when this park opened in 1990, it kind of takes you back, and it's just fun. Like I mentioned earlier, the Back to the Future trilogy is also way, way up in my favorite movies, familiar movies, movies I grew up with. And it sucks that they don't have the ride anymore, but they do have the train and the DeLorean. I say the DeLorean from the movie. I don't know that it was actually used in the movie. I know for the original they had 4, and of course there were 2 more sequels after that, and God knows how many collectors have cloned these things, but still a cool photo op nonetheless, and one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't like sports cars, and I don't get excited about cars, but this is the only car I want, only movie car that I want. I want a DeLorean. When I have the money for it and I'm too old to do anything exciting with it, that's when I'll get one. Springfield, USA, The Simpsons. I am sad that I never made it here when the Back to the Future ride was a thing and I didn't get to ride the Back to the Future ride, but they replaced it with the one thing that could not make me happier. It's my favorite thing in the whole wide world, The Simpsons, and the home of Duff Beer. The only place that I know of where you can get official, licensed, real Duff Beer. And behind me over here at the beer garden, it's open air and it's nice, and you can sit and hang out there and just drink beer while your kids run around. So mom, dad, if you got to bring the kids because they're like, can we go to Universal? Can we go to Universal? Can we go to Universal? I was that kid. You can just turn them loose and you can camp out over there at the open air bar, and you can pretty much see the whole park from there anyway. So I mean, it's not like you can't keep an eye on them. Or if you're a sucker for nostalgia like I am, you can go into Moe's and you can drink in the real Moe's with real Duff Beer. How great is that? It's not Back to the Future, but it's The Simpsons ride. It doesn't get any better than that. Now, truth be told, it's a motion simulator video, and I'm not big on those kind of rides. However, what I love about the Simpsons ride, as well as all the area here at Springfield, is the visual puns, the jokes. You can tell that the writers of the show were involved because it sticks to its roots of visual humor, and that's always been one of my favorite things about the Simpsons TV show, is just the visual gags, the sight gags. There's so many. They just cram into every 22-minute episode. It's unreal. Now, if you know me at all, you know that I am a huge, huge Simpsons fan. And if you don't know me at all, you now know that I'm a huge, huge Simpsons fan, because if you didn't already notice, my Facebook and Instagram and YouTube avatar pictures are all Simpsonized me. So, you know, that speaks a lot. I absolutely love The Simpsons, and I love the humor that is prevalent. It really resonates with the essence of the show and what has kept the show around for over 30 years, and all of that can be seen here throughout Springfield. And that's something else that I just love about Universal. You don't get that anywhere else. All right, we head to the haunted houses that are back over here. Oh wait, it's not Halloween Horror Nights, my mistake. I'm so used to there being haunted houses over there. But right here, the Men in Black ride. Men in Black is another ride like E.T. that it's a little bit dated, but it's fun. It's an interactive ride where you get to go in and help Will Smith shoot aliens. But if you grew up in the 90s and you remember going to the movie theater and you see that movie and you love it, and I do, it's one of my guilty pleasures, whether you like it or not. I think all three Men in Blacks are pretty good movies. But the first time I came here, I didn't even know there was a Men in Black ride. And what blew me away and turned me into a little kid again for just a few seconds was not the ride itself, but just walking through the line and seeing the worm guys and like the entire, you know, like the main floor where the twins are and the jumbo computer. I loved every bit of that so much, and it's just so much fun. And of course, if you're here for Halloween Horror Nights like I am oftentimes, what better than shooting aliens, you know, during Halloween? It fits in perfect. Behind me is the Fear Factory Live Theater, but to me, I will always call it the Bill and Ted Theater, because for almost 30 years during Halloween Horror Nights, Universal had the Bill and Ted live show, and I've never seen a theme park show like this before or since, and I absolutely loved it. It was a comedy show that lampooned all things pop culture, just like The Simpsons does, but it was done in about 40 minutes of just action-packed, rapid-fire, set-up, punch, and it had musical numbers, and it had special effects, and it had unnecessary scantily clad dancers, and it had pyro, and it was just balls out stupid. And it was PG-13. Like, they used swear words and they made sexual innuendos, and it was just a really, really fun adult-oriented comedy Halloween show. And if you've never seen it, I don't know how to describe it. There's videos out there on YouTube, I think, still floating around if they haven't been flagged and turned down. The actual name of this theater was the Fear Factory Live Theater, but as you can see behind me on this side, the signs are covered up, and that show has been slated for removal. Now, Fear Factory has been irrelevant for some time. Like back when Fear Factor was did I say Fear Factory? Back when Fear Factor was popular, Joe Rogan had hair, so that was a long time ago. But now, no one knows what's going to happen in here. There's rumors flying around about more Harry Potter stuff and this and that, but as of now, this theater's dark, and it's a large, nice, you know, indoor-outdoor covered theater. And so I hope that they put something good in its place, and I hope that we continue to have good Halloween stuff, whatever it is. I wish they'd bring Bill and Ted back. Creative, Universal, you listening? Bill and Ted. We want Bill and Ted back.
I want to do.
Another great thing to love about Universal, Harry Potter. Even if you're not a huge Harry Potter fan, I don't see how there's any way you can not like this. My wife and I are not Harry Potter fans. In fact, we went backwards. We'd never seen any of the movies, but when they first opened Hogwarts over at Islands of Adventure, we got to visit that 2 or 3 times before we ever saw a Harry Potter movie. And when they announced that they were building this, Diagon Alley, where I'm standing, we said, okay, this is obviously a bigger deal than we know, and they're doing more stuff about it, and so let's just watch the movies. And so that got us to actually watch the Harry Potter movies for the first time. And I can tell you, even if you're not in tune to the movies, if you're completely clueless, or if you're like me and you watched them once and you kind of remember the gist of it, but not every little detail, you'll still appreciate this, because this is just, it's gothic and it's London and it's whimsical and there's stonework and woodwork and it's dark and it's creepy and magic and dragons and just so much kind of stereotypical D&D folklore type stuff, you know, that makes so many popular stories famous. That's the groundwork for the Harry Potter area. And another great thing about Harry Potter is that the entire immersive Harry Potter universe here at Universal is connected between the 2 parks with the Hogwarts Express, and you don't realize you're going between the 2 parks. It's an immersive enclosed ride, and you're on the train and you're really going from London to Hogsmeade or vice versa, and it bridges you between those 2 parks. And that's what I mentioned early in the video. I love how both Universal Parks and City Walk and everything are right here together, because the area that's over there and the area that's over here and the linkage by the train creates a massive immersive world in the universe of Harry Potter, and you could enjoy it all day and not even go do anything else at either of these parks. And just between the 2 of those sections, it feels like you're in one massive Harry Potter theme park. And the rumor has it that at Epic Universe there will be even more Harry Potter stuff, so it's worth getting into even if you're not, because you'll enjoy all the stuff that they have here. The rides and attractions and shows are super well done and really do immerse you in that universe. Lombard's is worth mentioning because it is some of the best seafood I've had in my life. Jaws, even though it's not here anymore, still represented by Bruce hanging up on the dock outside next to Lombard's, and over here on this side we've got the Richter Burger Company. And this is kind of the San Francisco area of the park, which used to connect with the Amity area, and there's still some other shops and like signage that kind of leave nods to Jaws, because Jaws was like the poster child ride for Universal back in the early days. We all remember seeing those old commercials where they said, "See the stars, ride the movies," and you see that giant shark head come out of the water by the boat, and it was classic. And that's actually as history tells, that's one of the most problematic rides like in the history of theme park rides. That thing was a beast to get going, so it does suck that it's gone. I did get to ride it one time, the first time I ever came here at night during horror nights. I got to ride it and I loved it. I don't even know if everything worked or not, but I loved it and had a great time. And the ride is back over, I can't see. Well, you can't see now. Lombard's is in the way. That's Lombard's. On the other side of Lombard's is Diagon Alley, where we just were, and they built that over the area that the ride used to occupy. So all throughout Diagon Alley, in shops and stores and stuff, there's all kinds of little Easter eggs and winks and nods to Jaws, because they know that it took Jaws' place, you know. So it's sad, but it's cool that they still have Bruce hanging out over here by Chez Alcatraz, which is also a great bar. This is kind of a little quiet hidey spot. You can see behind me there's tables and stuff right by the water. So if you want to get away from the noise and craziness, you can come over here, get you a drink at Chez Alcatraz, and enjoy it by the water. There's actually a drink called the Ocean Attack, and if you ask the bartender, you got a good bartender, they will do the whole show.
Oh no, there's a shark in the water! Lunch, now you're shark lunch.
And there's a shark in the water, and then it bites somebody, and then there's, you know, blood, which is grenadine. Anyway, I digress. I get asked a lot what my favorite ride down here in Orlando is, and I think at this point I can safely say it's right behind me. It's the Revenge of the Mummy. Now, it's based on the Brendan Fraser Mummy movie, which is pretty old, and so, you know, I don't know that it was that popular of a movie, but Brendan Fraser appears in the ride, and to cult status thanks to closed captioning. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google the Mummy Ghostly Swoosh, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But this is such an amazing, badass ride, and it definitely complements Halloween Horror Nights if you're here for Halloween Horror Nights, because it's a roller coaster. It's a dark ride. It has animatronics. It has pyrotechnics. It has blacklight elements. It has projection mapping. Every effect in the book they used to bring this story to life, and none of it feels forced in there. It's all very cohesive, and it looks good, and it works well, and it's just a really fun, really thrilling ride that I always want to do over and over and over every time I'm here. This is a cool spot to be standing because I can point out a lot of stuff that I love about Universal. Right behind me, just before like the subway stairs over there, is the exit to the Tribute Store. The Tribute Store is a super elaborate linear shopping experience, is the best way I can put it, that Universal hosts all the time. And I say all the time, it's seasonal, but as the seasons change, so does the store. So it might be the Christmas or the holiday tribute store, it could be the Halloween Horror Nights tribute store, it might be the Mardi Gras tribute store, and the last summer when they opened Velocicoaster, it was the Jurassic World tribute store. And what's so cool about it is that it's linear, so it's like got an entrance and an exit, like a walk-through attraction, but it's a full shopping experience, and it's in 3 sections, and every section is distinctly different, but they all embody the theme of whatever the time of year is. And so it's just a super cool way to shop. I mean, there's scenic work, and there's decorations, and there's lighting elements, and there's background music that just really set the mood. And I don't get excited about shopping. I really don't. If you've watched enough of my videos, you know that. There's a ton of theme park vloggers out there who go into a park and they go, oh my gosh, they've got new merchandise for this. And I truly don't care. You know, I do have my fair share of Horror Nights merch, but I don't get all giddy and make an entire video around it. So even if you don't buy anything, just going through there is worth the experience at the Tribute Store here at Universal Studios. And right behind me here is the set of the New York Public Library, where they used to have the Ghostbusters show. Now, that was way before my time, back when the park was fresh and newer in the 90s. But still, Ghostbusters have always been an integral part of Universal Studios. They have had appearances at Halloween Horror Nights. 2 years ago, they had a Halloween Horror Nights Ghostbusters house. Of course, they used to have the show here. So it's another one of those things that just, for me and for many others, Universal is Halloween. This is also the centerpiece. When you walk in the front of the park, which is all the way back that way, and if you had a clear field of vision with no people or anything else in the way, you see all the way down the road, and it would look right to the New York Public Library behind me. And right over here over my head, you may have heard this while I'm talking the last few minutes, but this is Rip Ride Rocket. This is another one of the great rides, roller coasters here that's on site. I'm not exactly sure when this opened, but it's a really fun roller coaster that it has a 90-degree lift, chain lift straight up. And then what's unique about this is that you can choose the music you want to listen to on the ride. So there's catalogs of tons of different music, and you do a little touch screen when you strap in, and you can decide what music you're going to listen to. I don't think it works anymore, but when the ride first opened, there were cameras in the back of every headrest, so it actually recorded you on the ride, and then whichever song you chose, it would put over that. And so the premise is like you're part of the music video. We're shooting you on this ride, and there's this background music, music video stuff. you know, so that's pretty cool. Still a great roller coaster, especially if you're a roller coaster fan. And right here behind me back this direction, that's really just backstage area. There's nothing exciting back there. That's backstage and all the sound stages. And the sound stages here at Universal pretty much occupy the space on this side of this park, but they kind of bridge the gap between this park and the other park. So what's significant about this is that at Halloween Horror Nights, typically 3 to 4 of the haunted houses are built in sound stages, and the entrance and exit to a couple of those is right down this way. So building haunts on sound stages is great because the sound stage is an enclosed, climate-controlled space with tons of power, all the power needs you could possibly want. And so it's just, I mean, it's a playground, you know, it's a blank canvas to build a badass haunted attraction. And they do every year, several of them. This is the Universal Monsters Cafe, and again, Universal synonymous with horror, but for a quick service, counter service restaurant, this one is very, very elaborately themed, and there's so many cool eyepieces. And on my way in here, the team member was telling me that the stuff that's in glass boxes was actually film used. And they're gonna close here shortly, but I'm just gonna do a quick walkthrough with the camera so y'all can see some of this. This is just such a cool restaurant. There's so many cool set pieces in here.
Comes the most fearful monster of the ages.
Dracula's castle.
Terror that is spoils of ancient tombs. Here is new horror by the master of
Much like the horror makeup show, I mean, this is it. This is Universal at its peak, you know? I think what people associate with Universal so much of. Thank you, I would have missed that completely. I appreciate it. So the spider in the ceiling, just then in the one room, I didn't even notice, and there was a team member in there flipping chairs, because like I said, it was, you know, they're closing up, and they let me in to take some video real fast, and she pointed up, she's like, look, you know, she saw me videoing, and I completely would have missed that if it hadn't been for her. So I also love the team members here. That's not the first interaction I've had with a Universal team member where they've just, you know, been out of their way courteous or helpful or just like going to help you do stuff. The customer service here is excellent. Welcome next door to Universal's Islands of Adventure, the other park, the new park, which opened in 1999, and the Hulk right behind me, which opened with it. I already told you guys that the Hulk was in my favorite horror movie, The House on Haunted Hill. But this park really is, it's called Islands of Adventure, and it really is adventure because you go across this lagoon over here and you pass into all these different lands, and they're all connected by land bridge, and you really do feel like you're kind of going into all these different worlds, and every one of them is synonymous with adventure. You have the Lost Continent, which is kind of a like mystical ancient Greek type area. You have Poseidon's Fury, which is an amazing special effects show. You stand there and you watch. It's not a ride, you just stand and watch. But some of the effects in there are groundbreaking. And then you've got Jurassic Park. You have the whole Jurassic Park is an island in a section here, and so many elements of it feel exactly like the Jurassic Park movies. You have Harry Potter, the other part of Harry Potter, Hogsmeade. I said Hogwarts. Hogsmeade, which is home to Hogwarts, and a couple of like badass rides. The Forbidden Journey, which was the first big Harry Potter ride, and Hagrid's mystical motorbike creatures. I call everything the short name. I don't know the long names, but Hagrid's motorcycle ride. Anyway, Hagrid's is a badass roller coaster, probably second only to the Mummy for me, because it also contains those dark ride elements and indoors and some other, you know, surprises therein, and it is just a great ride. You have superhero Marvel Marvel Superhero Island, which is kind of a throwback to like the comic book. It's like the comic book Marvel superheroes. Now it's been here a long time and it is a little dated here and there, and it predates Disney's purchase of Marvel, so hopefully it sticks around. You've got Seuss Landing right over here behind me. Whoop, yeah, you can see all the pastel colored buildings somewhere over there. Anyway, Seuss Landing. Everybody loves Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is, you know, everybody has some relation to that. They know what it is, and it's super whimsical. And personally, here, if you're down here at the holidays, that's probably my favorite place to go because of all the stuff that's over there, the Whoville and the Grinch and all that. And it's just a great place to be at the holidays. And you also have Toon Lagoon, which you have like Kathy, and you've got Popeye, and you've got all these great like old school comic strip cartoons that people are familiar with, and it's just a ton of fun. Time for more stupid information with Farmeritaville. Did you know all of these whimsical building tops everywhere around Seuss Landing that got the weird goofy shapes and spirals and stuff, they're all sculpted out of styrofoam. They are huge blocks of rigid styrofoam, and then they are covered with a weatherproof hard coating and then painted. So it's like a hard shell over the sculpted styrofoam, and then that's affixed to the actual steel structure of the different buildings. If you find yourself over here in the Lost Continent and you need some food, Mythos is an award-winning restaurant. They have won lots of industry awards for like the best themed restaurant, and it is very well themed, but the food is actually really good as well. Now you can sit inside, which is kind of like being in a fancy cave type environment. There's water flowing through the middle of the restaurant, things like that. Or if you sit outside, you're actually on the edge of the lagoon so that you can look across the whole park, across the body of water that's in the middle of the park, and you can see the rides going around and stuff like that. So depending on where the sun is and the weather at that time of year, you know, outside might be a better option, but the food there is awesome. So right at the end of that last shot, a kid ran and jumped up and smacked these tent dingleberries. And what you didn't see is that he was bent over holding his hand in pain, because these are like hard resin. They're fake. They're meant to hold up to the weather. They're not real French, and he smacked the shit out of it with the tip of his finger and hurt himself good, and I had a great laugh at his expense. I don't know who that kid is, by the way. Total stranger, just happened to run and do that when I was taking a sweeping shot of the area. Even if you are not a mega Harry Potter fan like I'm not, you can't deny that walking around Hogsmeade at night is just a sight to behold. It's beautiful over here, and especially if you catch them when they're doing projection mapping on Hogwarts Castle. It looks amazing. All right, something that I was really excited about the first time I visited Universal was Jurassic Park, and just right here. I mean, you've got the gates with the flames and everything, and it's kind of dark right now, and there's a lot of backlight from the Hogwarts Castle, but during the day, they got everything going. I mean, this is like the real deal. This was as real as it could get. Something else else that'll turn you into a kid if you were born in the 80s and you remember growing up watching the original Jurassic Park is the Jurassic Park Visitor Center right behind me. It's a bunch of shops and restaurants and interactive hands-on stuff for kids, but when you walk inside there, it's like walking into the Visitor Center from the movie. And for me, I just love that the first time I visited. And the other cool thing here in this area is, of course, nowadays we have Jurassic World. Jurassic World's great, and it's slowly creeping in this area of the park where Jurassic Park and Jurassic World are meeting, and they're doing such a great job. Now they have raptor encounters with Blue where you can meet Blue, and of course the Velocicoaster, which is one of the best roller coasters I've ever ridden. I already mentioned it's definitely in my top 3 of favorite rides here at Universal, and it's just a great roller coaster. And the entrance to Velocicoaster stays true to the original with the font and the flames and the, you know, everything just looks great. And then it's got kind of the newer Jurassic World look with all of the lighting inside, and it changes colors and it's blue most of the time. And it complements the visitor center right here nicely, I think. Now back in the old park, in the old days, there was a King Kong ride in the original Universal Studios, and then they took it out and they replaced it with the Mummy, and I never got to ride that original version, but as we already established, I love the Mummy. But then a few years ago, they brought back a new 3D Kong ride, which is actually pretty impressive with a really great King Kong animatronic, and where better place to put Kong's temple than here as an extension of Jurassic Park. Two things that go hand in hand. Actually, in the Kong ride, if you've never done it, Kong wrestles dinosaurs, so it's a perfect fit. Dudley Do-Right's Ripsaw Falls, one of the best water rides. It's actually quite long, and there's a lot of dark ride animatronic elements to it. That one almost got me. But you get drenched. It's not like a typical log flume where you get a little bit of spray. You get soaked to the bone on this ride. Toon Lagoon is also home to another great water ride. Popeye and Bluto's Bilge Rat Barge, I think is the name of it. But it's a raft, a river raft ride. And just like this, it's also, I mean, there's a lot of colorful scenery and animatronics and things going on, so it's not just, you know, go in, get wet. There's actually kind of a storyline, and it's one of the better themed water rides. And you also get drenched to the bone, which is why I've only ever done these a couple of times, because I just don't want to be soaked to death when I'm walking around all day. But they're great rides. And of course, we have Marvel Superhero Island, which is like walking through the living pages of a comic book. Now earlier I touched on the Hulk, which is a badass roller coaster. But the other all-star ride over here is the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, where you join Spider-Man to like save the world. And unlike some of the other rides I've mentioned where I've said, yeah, they're kind of dated, but they're still fun, and part of the fun's the nostalgia. Well, Spider-Man's nostalgic because, like I said, it's from the comic books, but the technology in the ride itself holds its own. It stands up to the test of time. Still one of the most impressive uses of practical effects blended with 3D effects that I have ever seen, and definitely one of my must-do rides every time that I come here. Well, friends, thank you for joining me on this heartfelt rant, I guess I'll call it. I don't know what else to call it. This really is a love letter to Universal Orlando. I love coming here. I always have a fun time when I come here. I love bringing friends here that have never been before and showing them around and just hanging out with them and having a good time and well, having a beer, you know. So anyway, thank you for coming along with me. Now, I know a lot of people are going to compare Universal to Disney. Jake, what's better? What do you like better? Well, here's the reality. I've already said that I like Universal better. And the fact of the matter is, Universal's never going to be as big as Disney in the parks department. And they know it. And I think Disney knows it. But Universal is a company that in some of their shows and things, they're not afraid to poke fun at themselves. They do it all the time in the horror makeup show. They used to do it really hard in Bill and Ted and on other things that I've seen over the years. And they are here to kind of fill a gap, I think, that Disney doesn't fill. And I think that appeals to a lot of people in my demographic, the elder millennials, as Eliza would say, you know, born in probably the 80s and raised in the 90s. And there's a lot of, there's just so many IPs here and stories and movies and topics that hit so close to home, much more so than any animated family-friendly film. And to me, that's what it is. And the other thing that goes in hand with not being as big as Disney is that I say sometimes Disney's too big for their britches, and I'm not knocking Disney, I'm not anti-Disney, I'm just very pro-Universal. And when I say Disney's too big for their britches, I mean like just the complexity of trying to visit, everything you have to do through your phone, you have to try to book dining and book stuff to wait in line, and it's always crowded. Over the last few weeks, I've been going to both parks a lot, and you know, the crowd flow at Universal's kind of up or down, depends on the time of the week, time of the day. Disney's just always, there's just so many people, and so many families and kids, and again, it goes back into that, there's just more adult-oriented IPs here at Universal, I think. But I absolutely love coming here, and I love hanging out, and I love hanging out with friends here. And if you've never been and you want to hang out, hit me up. Let's go to Universal. If you have been and you want to go hang out again, hit me up. Let's go to Universal, because I need drinking buddies. Right now, I'm just the weird asshole in the corner talking to a camera and drinking by himself, which, as it turns out, is more socially acceptable here in Orlando than it is back in Texas. People will give me a lot more crap for it back there, I think. But anyway, thank you for watching this this rant of mine, and you know, thank you. If you haven't subscribed, please do. You never know what kind of crap I'm going to throw up. Throw up on the channel. I'm not going to throw up on camera. That would be gross. But thank y'all for watching. Please take care and have a good time. We'll see you soon. Go to stuff.